Mommy, always coming soon, I know. The earliest memory I have is looking under the door in the Bronx. We had a little 2-room apartment. It was Mommy, Owie. His name was Joe. Mommy called him Joey. I called him Owie. I was 2, and I could see under the door. We lived on the first floor, and I could hear the people walking up the stairs, and all I could see was their shoes and their ankles. So one must have been a woman. She had high black boots, and she stomped. And then there was a little boy with Keds, U.S. Keds. That's before Nikes and Adidas and Converse. He's white U.S. Keds, and he jumped every 2 steps. And at my head was the aluminum chair of the kitchenette, and my feet was the white porcelain stove. And oh, boom, no, that's not Owie. I knew his footwork, I knew his sound, I knew his rhythm, and I waited for him. I was 2, and I didn't know how to tell time, but I felt it. I had a clock when Owie was coming home, and when he would put his key in the lock, it would jingle. And just before he opened the door, so he wouldn't hit me in the head, I would jump up into Owie's arms. And he would hug me. I loved Owie. When I got older, I called him Joe. People would say, "How do you call your father Joe? That's disrespectful." I says, "Are you kidding? I love my father. I'd give him a kidney if I could." So, Owie and Mommy. Let me tell you about Mommy, because, you know, I was inside Mommy for the first 9 months of my being. And Mommy, every Friday night, she would put the candles on the kitchen table. And she'd put this is Mommy's scarf. It was Joe and Mommy. I'm not going to put it on my head. But she would cover her head with it and close her eyes. It was the Sabbath. It was the Jewish Sabbath. I know the Friday is the Islamic Sabbath. Friday night to Saturday night is the Jewish Sabbath. And Sunday, as many of you know, is the Christian Sabbath, the day of rest. Sabbat in Hungarian. Free. Take it easy, lighten up, relax. And Mommy would put this over her head, and she would, because of the fire codes, I'll just mime it. She would light the candles, she would close her eyes, and I would sit there rapt, looking at Mommy. And let me tell you, I'm still not a kid who sits down too much. And I would be at rapt attention. I wouldn't move a muscle. I was frozen. And she would light the candles and make these mystical movements with her hands. And tears would well up in her eyes and roll down her chubby, freckled cheeks and drip off of her chin. And sometimes I would hear a whimper. And it was the only time I could remember in my childhood where I was really quiet, really giving my attention to someone else. Mommy was a great person. Sylvia, she was the daughter of Hungarian refugees. 1918, they left Hungary to go to New York City. And she had a bunch of rules. When friends of mine would come into the house, she had 2 rules. She'd say, "Hi, what's your name? Barry, Gert, Billy, Johnny, Richard. My name is Sylvia, not Mrs. Miller. Are you hungry?" That was her favorite concept. Are you hungry? Like other Hungarian mothers, right? Jilla, Anna, right? Are you hungry? Of course, kids, teenagers, little kids, always hungry. She says, "Okay, 2 rules. I'm Sylvia, and I'm going to take you into the kitchen. I'm going to make you a sandwich, and next time you come in, you make your own sandwich. And from then on, my friends, before we had to lock all 6 locks on the door, "Hi, Sylvia," and they would go into the fridge and make their sandwich, and it was cheese sandwiches on white bread. And she had a few rules that she said it's the same price to walk on the sunny side, right? Also, if you're walking down the street, you got any money? You got a bill? Wait, you got a bill? How about your shoe? No. You got a bill? Thanks. Oh, a bill. All right, the language, right? I meant the dollar bill. That's okay. So anyway, if you're walking down the street and you find money, and you're with someone else, you have to share it, right? So she would once found $5. I remember when you're a kid, 1951, 52, $5 is serious money. And she was with her friend Kitty, also Hungarian, from 2nd generation, and she would give Kitty, and then a few months later, Kitty found the money. And my mother would say, "That SOB didn't give me half." You know what SOB means, right? So Mama had a great strength, right? I used to go to the yeshiva. That's the Jewish Catholic school. And in the middle of the 4th grade, my parents missed the payment for the month. It was like $25 a month. I think the rent at that time was $31 a month. And they took me into the office, and I had to wait in the office, which was great. I didn't have to be in the classroom. And they called my mother, "You didn't pay, you're going home." And my mother came, took me home, and the next day, I went to public school. There were girls. And a schoolyard. Teacher Mrs. Harrow wasn't so friendly, but that was okay. And the first day I go into the principal's office, you call it Igor's gato? Gato, that's in Espanol, el gato? The cat, right. So I guess the cat is the Igor's gato, right? And Igor's gato says to me, "Okay, read the book." You know, maybe you guys, any Americans here? Any Americans who will admit it? Okay, no raising hands. And Igor's gato says, "Read this book." It was called The Reader. And see Spot. Spot was the dog, right? See Spot run down the street. Mary waves to Johnny. And I couldn't read it. I could read Yiddish. I could read Hebrew. I could read Rashi, which is footnotes to the Bible, but I couldn't read English. So because of my age, I should have been in the 3rd grade. And Igor's gato says, "Sorry, Mrs. Miller, your son is going to have to go into..." And she started to cry and scream. Okay, he go in the 4th grade. So I was in the 4th grade, and it was great because we had a big schoolyard, and we would, in lunchtime, we'd run around, and it was great. I lived for school for girls and running around in the schoolyard. And in between, I learned how to read and write. And my mother did my homework. So it was really great. She did it so good that when I was 16, I graduated high school. By the time I was 18, I was in and out of 3 universities, right? So I graduated, and finally, it took me 8, 9 years to finish graduating. And this is my 49th year as a teacher. And I was born in 49, so that's very significant for me. Let me tell you now about Joe. Joe was my man. And when I was really little, before my brother Jeffrey was born, and you guys know, maybe, is anybody here an older brother or sister? Okay, so you know how it is, right, when a little baby comes into the house. So let's start off with my mother was pregnant. Now, I was 5. And because she had lost the first baby before me, she always says, oh, tatala. Tata is father in Yiddish. Tatala is little father. So the Jewish mother calls the son Tatala, little father, and the girl Mamala, little mama. So I was Tatala. Tatala, you're so wonderful, it took me 2 tries to get you. Now she's pregnant. And because of her difficulty in the first pregnancy, they told her to go to the hospital for a week before my brother. See the little boys up there? That's me with the tie, and that's Jeffrey. Now Jeffrey about is this big and that big now. So be nice to your little brother because you never know how big he's going to turn out, right? So it's Sunday, oh yeah, it's about the exact time, Sunday evening like tonight. And we're watching Lassie. Everybody knows Lassie, right? Even during the communist time, they let you watch Lassie, right? Cool, right? Right? And Streets of San Francisco and Kojak. Right? Yeah, okay, right? Show you how great America is. So we're watching Lassie, and my father was there with me. And it was weird because it was the first time in my life Mommy was gone. The phone rings. One of those dial phones. I have one at home, a little too heavy to carry in all my bags. But next time, April 22nd, I'll be back here again. All right? The phone rings and my father picks it up and he goes, the baby's coming. And he puts on his coat and he goes across the street, across the hall to Shadi Nani. Shadi Nani used to have a chocolate shop, handmade chocolate shop in Budapest. She emigrated to New York in the 1920s. And Shadi Nani comes in to take care of me, and my father puts his coat on, and he opens the door, and he looks back at me, and he says to me, Jay, you sure you still want a sister? You got to decide now. I'm going to get the baby. I said, no. He says, hurry, I got to go. I said, no, I changed my mind. I want a brother. So he opens the door, he closes the door, then he opens the door again. We need a name. What are we going to call your brother? And the little boy in Lassie was Jeff Miller, and that's Jeff Miller. So what a brilliant way for a father to teach his older son to love his little brother. So time goes by, and the next few days, Jeffrey comes home. And he has this little crib. And our room was so tiny, and just this little pizzola. And I get into the crib real quietly and slowly, and here's a little Jeffrey, and I go to sleep. And my mother comes in and says, oh, Jay, the baby's very delicate. You have to be careful. Come on out. And I remember that like it was yesterday. So, Joe, the summers were real hot in the city, like the last few summers, really hot. So fortunate for me, my dear partner and I, we go to Balaton Lake. Anybody been to Balaton Lake? Anyone? Okay, if you've been to Balaton Lake, don't raise your hand. All right. Can I ask you a question about Balaton Lake? The first time I went to Balaton Lake was about 25 years ago when I first arrived in Hungary. And we took the train to Balaton Lela or something? Lela, right? All right. And we take the train and we get off at Balaton Lela. And then we walk across that's not a highway, but that's the main road, with two lanes each way. And we walk down the street, we make a right, and we go up the hill about 3 blocks to our pension. And we get undressed, and we put our suits on underneath our clothes, and we get our towel and our flip-flops, and we walk down the 3 streets, make a left, we go across the road, we cross the railroad tracks, we go to the beach, and we take our towel, we put it down, and we walk into the water. And we walk, and we walk, and we walk, and we walk. And it's like we're walking 2 kilometers and it's up to my knees. All right. So now, after the walk and the ride, now this is what I want to ask you. Now, I got to make a pishie. So what do? Do I just sort of like... So what do? Do you make a pishie in the water, or are you going to walk 2 kilometers back to your towel, change your clothes, put it in, walk across the tracks, walk across the road, make a right, go up to 3 blocks, and then to the toilet in the pension? So how many of you would just make a pishie in the lake? Who would admit it? Okay. Yeah, I've asked a few groups of students with this, and there's always one guy. It's always a guy who says, nope. And everybody, come on, Janos. Okay, I do. So where was I? So so that's why the water is salty. I thought it was an inland lake. Okay, next time you go into Balaton, remember me. So let's, a few things about Joe. You see over here, before Jeffrey was born, my parents would sleep on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings as they worked really hard. And I was a kid. I was up with the dawn. I've always been up with the dawn. And in the drawer was Joe's bayonet from World War II. This is a bayonet. It goes at the end of a rifle. And probably he should have given it back to the American government, but this is a souvenir. And he was in the Navy on a boat. And here it says he was in Charlotte. He was in Guantanamo Bay. You hear that in the news. And he went through the Panama Canal on the ship, and he was in Pearl Harbor. Lucky the day that Pearl Harbor was attacked, his ship was out into the ocean. Or else I wouldn't be here telling you stories. And while he was on the ship, he was trained in the Enigma code that broke the German U-boats in World War II that were submarines that were taking out most of the merchant ships and the warships. So he was one of 22 radio men. Anyone know Morse code? Did you need it in your work? Nobody knows Morse code. And I used to know it when I was a kid. Yes, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I would be in the room, quiet as a mouse. Mice quiet? Why is it quiet as a mouse? Well, I was really quiet because I wanted to let my parents sleep. And he had a deck of cards. Not a deck like this. It was a deck with, they called it a French deck. They had, let's say, very beautiful women. And it was very stimulating as a little 2-year-old, 3-year-old kid. And the harmonica. I always wanted to learn to play harmonica, but I never did. Thanks, Kati, for lending me your harmonica. Thanks, Anna, for the cards. Thanks, Joe, for the bayonet. All right, so let's see what we have here. This is important. I had to write it down. Joe taught me how to drive. Hi. We have some. Alex. Hi.
I'm a bit nervous.
Hi.
Because I'm so upset.
Oh, you got this more comfortable. This one is used. Hi. Okay, so Joe taught me how to drive when I was 13. We went to this big field up in the mountains, and we put a pillow under the seat and a pillow in the back of the seat, and I could almost touch and we learned how to drive. So the rules of Joe, if you want to get a pen, if not, MillerJ49@Yahoo. All right? Rule number 1, he said, always be the driver. He said, I taught you how to drive. I know you're a good driver. I want you to be the driver, not your crazy friends. Okay, that's number 1. Before you go on a long trip, check the tires, the air, and the oil. Okay? Also, really important for men, always have half a tank of gas. We call it gas, you call it petrol. I'll call it gas because you know it's petrol. Always have a half a tank of gas. For women, always as close to full as possible, because you never know if your car is going to have to save you. So keep that tank high, okay? He also taught me that the car is a really good weapon. So one day I was driving a taxi in the Bronx. Now when you drive a taxi, most cab drivers, we call it a cab driver, taxi, cab is the same, right? Or even in New York, we call it a hack license. I'm a hack means I'm a taxi driver, okay? And I can't be prejudiced. So if I'm going to have a job where I can't pick up certain kind of people, I'm not going to do the job. So I pick up anybody, everywhere, and go any place. And I pick up 3 teenagers. They get in the back. Now, fortunately, New York City cabs have bulletproof plexi with a little thing to put the money in, and behind the seat is iron. So I hear knives start to open and click, and they start to talk, as we say in the Bronx, they start to talk shit. And I know what's going to happen. So I say, okay, guys, I'm going down to Main Street. You see the Main Street up here? This is Le Bronx, okay? And this is, before shopping malls, you had this big area called Fordham Road, and all of the different shops and restaurants and coffee houses and ice cream parlors were right here. And if you take straight on down, I guess we'd call it the Andrassy of the Bronx, right? Or I've been in Paris a few times, the Champs-Élysées of Le Bronx. Why do they call it the Bronx? That's a good question, right? I just have a map here of New York City. The Bronx is the only part of New York City that's actually on the mainland of the United States. Manhattan, as you know, is an island. Staten Island is an island. And Brooklyn and Queens is the beginning of Long Island. So, in the old days when the Dutch controlled this area, the Bronx family owned the whole area, the Bronx. So people would say, hi, we're going to see the Bronx, right? We're going to see the Millers. We're going to see the family, the Wrights. I'm going to see the Wrights, so the Bronx family, all right? So I'm in the car, I step on the gas, and I tell the guys, okay, guys, let's dance. That's let's go to it. That's euphemism for let's, you know. You want to dance? I'll dance with you. Step on the gas. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you the chance to jump out of the car. I'm going to slow down to 15 miles an hour. 0.6 is a kilometer. So it's not so slow, not so fast. I said, you have a choice. You jump out while I'm moving, or I'm smashing into the first police car that I see. And they jumped out. And I'm here to tell you the story. All right? Right? Joe said, when you see a ball coming in between two cars and you're driving, stop, because a kid is going to be coming after. Thanks. Usually you throw a ball to a European, they go, great, good hands. All right, so, right. You're driving, you stopped at the light. Big thoroughfare coming in cross streets. The light's red. The light turns green. Before you go, wait till everybody stops coming. And about the first month that I learned how to drive and I had my license, I was waiting in Manhattan. And my friend says, go, go, the light's green. I says, wait. And bam, the cab jumped the light and the other tried to jump the light and smash. One guy didn't have a driver's license and the other guy didn't have insurance. So they said goodbye and they went. So, yep. And the last one is when the police stop you, keep both hands on the wheel. A few years ago, we were driving to Balaton, and what is it, the M7? M7, and then you get off where it says Balaton Fured or Balaton Fude, right? And we get off, and right there is a police checkpoint. And who do they pull over? My dear Anna. All the drivers, they pull her over, and I'm sitting next to her, and the cop is big as a tree, and the sun, it was like dark when he walked by the back of the car, and I put my hands on the dashboard. And the cop walks by, and he smiles at me, and he tells Anna in Hungarian, he says, tell your friend he's not in America. Crazy stuff, huh? All right. Joe liked to read the newspaper. Oh, I don't want to forget this one. I couldn't figure out how to remember all these stories, so I brought all this stuff that reminded me of the stories, right? So Joe, every evening, he would get the newspaper. He would read it, because he always said it's better to know what's going on, right, than to be in the dark. So he would be behind the newspaper, and I came up to him one day and I said, Daddy, and a friend of mine said, put the newspaper down and mime the newspaper. Okay, I'm miming the newspaper. And I said to him, Daddy, I guess I was younger then, Daddy, could you, I need a Spanish tutor. You know, maybe you have some trouble in your language classes. I know Hungarians learn 2, 3, 4 languages. So so he says, so? I said, it costs $10 an hour. He says, so what do you expect me to do about it? You got shoes? You got clothes? You got a warm bed to sleep in? You got food? Get a job. So I delivered the New York News. And you see, my friend Danny Halbin, he's famous in his own right, in his own time. He's a Bronx artist. He painted these pictures. And if you're interested, danielhalbin.com, right? And this is the Bronx. And this is the neighborhood where I grew up. That's Manhattan across the river. This is Yankee Stadium. You must see, every day you walk in a big city, someone with a baseball hat with NY on it. That's the New York Yankees. That's the Bronx. The Bronx. The Bronx. Let me teach you some Bronx language. Could you say the Bronx? The Bronx. Not Bronx. The Bronx. A little Bronx. Okay. Now here's another one. How you doing? How you, not how you doing? Hey, that's real good. Where you from? There, look at that. You got anything green in the back? No? Okay. Wow. That's amazing. What do you want? It's one word. What do you want? What do you? What do you? What do you want? The tongue, now you can roll your tongue. What do you want? You came too? The whole family's here. What do you want?
I don't know.
Okay. We do a brother-sister act. Okay. Where was I? What do you want? What are you doing? Where you going? Where you going? It's one word. Okay, that's enough. I'm here. Thank you. All right. So where was I? Oh yeah. So anyway, I got Alex. So I got a job delivering the newspaper. Now, you see in American movies, the kid on the bicycle throwing the papers. No way. I would go up 6 floors and stick the papers underneath the door, the same door that I used to look under when I was a little kid. And then I'd go up to the roof and go down the next building, going down, down, down. And that was all around Yankee Stadium. Now, this is a significant place for me. Is that for me? Has anyone been on the, what is the red line, the number 2 metro? Yeah. Okay, the red line goes from Ursh, right, Visitor through Pilango, and then it goes underground, right? And you know that feeling of when you're outside and you go, right? So this is the same thing here. As it goes down, and Manhattan is down that way, and it goes past the Yankee Stadium, and you could actually see inside the stadium just for a moment, and then it goes underground. And that's where my mother taught me, when there's an older person on the train, you have to give them a seat, because one day you're going to be old and you're going to need that seat. And now I realize. But it was right there. And so this is the subway. It's elevated, but we still call it the subway. And any people study Spanish, what is amor? So this is my Bronx. Anyone into classical music? Could you name any famous Bronx pianists? Murray Pariah, maybe you've heard of? No, he's the director of the London Classical School of Music or something like this. And he comes from this street. He lives right about over here. When he comes to Budapest like every 5 years, I called him up at the Kempinski. I says, "Hi, Murray. Is this Murray from Walton Avenue?" He says, "Yeah." So, Murray Pariah from the Bronx. I did tell you about Jennifer Lopez. Anyone a Jennifer Lopez fan? Yeah, she's pretty cool, huh? Right? She does everything. So let me get back to Joe. All right, so Joe gets me to deliver the newspaper. Then I wanted to play football. I mean, not this kind of football. This kind of football. Right? I want to be a tough guy. But I'm not that big. So I asked him for weeks, "Daddy, I need those, those pads and a, helmet and cleats and like most fathers, they want to give their kids everything they could give them." So he finally comes up with serious money to buy all this stuff for me. And we have the big game, actually in the field right around this house here. And I'm on defense. And the first play of the game, the ball's on the other side, none of my business. Next play of the game, the quarterback on the other team throws it to his guy. My guy hits his guy. The ball bounces right in my hands, and 8 guys attack me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To imagine that, 8 people on top of me. That was bad enough, but the worst part was getting up. They step on your leg, they step on your finger, they step on your neck. I got up and I said, this ain't for me. And there was a kid whose father had died in an accident, and actually I saw the accident. He was on a tractor fixing this field, and the tractor rolled over into a ditch. It was terrible. So anyway, his mother couldn't handle it. I gave him all the stuff, gave it to him. I said, Johnny, have a good day. And never went to a football game again. And my father was reading the newspaper again. And I said, Dad, I told him what happened. And he just never said one word, but he just put the newspaper down and he went. He smiled. Okay, I hear from all over the world, boys, girls, bullies. I mean, not the Hungarian bully, but people trying to intimidate, trying to scare physically, mentally, on the internet, bullies. So I was 16 in high school, in my senior year, and everyone else was 18, 19. And there was this one guy, I'll use his real name, Peter. He was this big, and big. And he used to punch me in the arm, push me. He didn't make me bleed or break anything, but he was annoying. He was a bully. And I went home and I told my father, I said, hey, Daddy, this guy's bullying me. And he's reading the newspaper. He says, so, what do you want me to do about it? I said, he's big, he's older than me. He says, take care of it yourself. Yeah, I can. So, next day, I go up to Peter in the schoolyard and I said, hey. And I put my hands behind my back and I closed my eyes. I developed this technique myself. No one taught me that. I closed my eyes. I says, if you touch me tomorrow, I'm going to break your nose. And he pushed me. Okay, I was pretty agile. Next day, I go right to his face again. I says, hey. And he punches me in the arm. And just like my father taught me, he was a boxer. You don't hit straight on. You hit right cross, and his nose spread on his face like this. And for 3 weeks, he chased me. But I was like a little rabbit. He couldn't catch me in between the cars in the streets of the Bronx. And then a few years ago, I'm working at a pharma company, the oldest in Hungary. Richter Gedeon, anyone take drugs? Sorry. And a few of the people who I teach, they say, hey, Jay, maybe you know someone in America, you could help us get a job. We could go do pharma in America. So who do I know in pharma in America? I know drug dealers in America. I don't know real legitimate pharma people. But someone sends me an invitation to LinkedIn. LinkedIn, how do you say that? LinkedIn. How do you say that? LinkedIn. Oh, thank you. Happy birthday to you again. How old?
44.
44, what a cool age, 44. Can we, little happy birthday? Are you from Hungary?
Yes, I am.
Okay, could we sing happy birthday in Hungarian? And your name?
Balázs.
Balázs. I once made a list of all the different variations of the name Balázs. Balázs, Bola, Bolika, Bola, Bolika, Bolushka. Okay, 1, 2, 3. To show you gratitude, could you hug everybody? Okay, I'll send you the mailing list after.
Okay, now what happens often when I do this in the show, I don't remember where I was. Where was I? Where I was telling a story somewhere? Where?
Farmer.
Farm? Farm? I knew this, I used to live on a family farm in New Hampshire. It was in a 200-year-old house at the end of a road that was about 2 miles off the main road. And we had 6 chickens, a garden. I guess the garden was about the size of this whole room, and 1 pig named Jenny. And my job, because they took care of the garden, my job was getting the eggs, collecting the eggs from the chickens, right? So we had 2, 3 eggs maximum in a day from 6 chickens, and I would bring them in warm eggs. It's so cool, right? You ever take a chicken's egg, right? All right, and I built Jenny's pen, big Jenny, like she weighed 450 pounds, 2.2 pounds. I know that because the only thing that we weigh in kilos in America is marijuana. So that's how I know kilos, right? All right, so I'm bringing the food to Jenny every day. Hi, Jenny, how are you doing? And she would run to the corner, always run to the corner, far as away from me as possible. And I would give it. Then one day, I go to Jenny with the food, and I say, here I am every day. I'm bringing you food, talking nicely to you, when eventually we're going to fatten you up, we're going to kill you and eat you. And she came right up to me. And from then on, she was my friend. And when they finally butchered Jenny, I would never eat that. I would never eat somebody I know. Okay, farmer, thanks, Balazs. So they asked me to help them get a job. So I'm looking through LinkedIn, and you know LinkedIn? And if you scroll, it's forever. It goes on and on. And hold on, it's a little chilly in here. And I'm scrolling, and I see a few people I know. And who comes up? Peter, the bully. Holy moly, there he is. And what does he do? He's a chemical engineer headhunter in Ohio. So I look at the telephone number, and I said, all right, I'm going to call him. I said, hi, Peter, this is Jay. Oh, Jay, I remember you. Because we used to walk to school together. I used to have to take 3 steps to his 1, because I was a basketball guy, and all the other guys were big. So I say, what are you up to? I said, I have these people, pharma chemical engineers, right? Like you, right? Okay. And they want to get some work. Maybe you could help them? He says, well, I would like to, but I'm retiring, and I work in petrochemical engineering, so I can't help you. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So he's telling me about his children and his grandchildren. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, maybe it was a traumatic experience for you, so maybe you have sublimated it and you forgot about it. I said, do you remember when you used to bully me and I broke your nose? And he starts to laugh, and he says, it was so traumatic, I forgot. So that's the story of the bully. Oh, yeah. So we used to go up to the mountains. I guess you've heard of the Woodstock Festival? I was at the Woodstock. Well, that's not totally correct. The Woodstock Festival came to me. Really. You'll remember Balaton Lake, but please Google white lake, the White Lake. White Lake is in walking distance of where the Woodstock Festival was. And if you look really carefully at this picture, somewhere over here, it was so cool, right? All right. So we used to go away to the mountains. We call it the mountains. It's about 2 hours outside of New York City, right near where the farmlands and rolling hills and White Lake. And we went to what we call a bungalow colony. Small little bungalows and one little house with little rooms. We rented a room for the summer. And the mothers used to stay with the kids all week, and the fathers used to come up on the weekends. And this is Joe's suitcase from World War II. And he used to hitchhike. It used to take 7 hours. Now it takes 2 hours with the highways they built. And he used to hitchhike, and he used to come. We used to wait up. He used to arrive 12, 1 o'clock, but we waited up, Mommy and me and Jeffrey. And so we were playing on the baseball field. And through the woods, up the hill, through the woods, were great blueberries, this big. All of a sudden, about a dozen kids, a dozen is 12. I know you buy 10 eggs, we buy a dozen, 12 eggs in America, right? I don't know why. And the kids had this thing, and they started to shoot it at us. So if you take a paper clip and you break it in 2 pieces, you have a nasty little weapon. And they shoot it at you. They shoot it at you. And there was only one father on the baseball field with us, and he smacks the kid in the face who has it's called a zip gun. It's actually put it on a piece of wood. It's dangerous, right? And all these young teenagers go up the hill through the bushes to their small wood. We were K wood, they were small wood. And then half an hour later, 100 people come over the hill down to the baseball field, and they want to kill the father who hit the kid with the zip gun. Now Joe, my father, he goes up right in the middle of it all. And he goes up to the father who's, man, someone hit my kid, I'll be angry. But the kid was dangerous. He goes up to the father and he whispers in his ear. And all of a sudden, the guy, from this he goes, and they disappear as quick as they came. And that night at dinner, I said, Daddy, what did you say to the guy? He said, if you want to kill the guy, he told the man, the father of the kid, he said, if you want to kill this guy, you'll hit him. He has a plate in his head from the war. He was a hero. He has a Purple Heart. That's medal they give you. And so if you want to kill the guy, go hit him. Disappeared. Joe knew how to work. Yeah, he was my guy. Let's see. Let me see what else. I'm incognito right now. I'm really just an old hippie. You want to pass it around? Would you go out with this man? What? Okay. What is the significant? Oh yeah. Oh man, I got to tell you this. In America, we call it the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, they call it the American War. Right? And I had a Vietnamese-born radiation oncologist as my student of English. And we used to meet in the Italian restaurant and have pizza together in Rakotsi. And I mentioned one day, you know, the Vietnam War. She says, and she smiles, she's this big. She says, no, Jay, there's many wars in Vietnam. The American War in Vietnam, Jay. And so I was the first year, born in 49, that's 1949, where they had a lottery. They picked your number. So if they picked your number above 160, you know you're not going. Below 160, I was 61. So my address was in the Bronx, but I was living in California with my wife. I was 18 and she was 16. Rita. All my 3 wives' mothers were born in Hungary. And Rita's mom, Margit, was born in Kisvárda. And Bundy lived on Poli Ede Utca, which is right over here, right? And the first night I walk in to meet them, we fell in love. She was 14, I was 16. I had already gone out with all her girlfriends, and she had already gone out with all my boyfriends. And we felt, that's what we do in the Bronx in the old days. And I come into the house, and there's, the table is right there, so you have to open the door. And Margit, the mother, is speaking with Barbara, Rita's older sister. And Margit, hi. And Margit says to Barbara, who's pregnant, so Barbara, if it's a girl, what are you going to call her? Wendy, ma, Wendy. Oh, says Margit, what a nice name, Wendy. No, ma, Wendy. Wendy, I like it very much. So she called her Debbie. And the son, if it's a boy, asks Margit, Margit. And we always, what's this Margit? Why not Margaret? You know, we're monolinguistic in America. We English. You don't speak English? So David, very nice name, David, okay? So back. So I'm in California. My mother and my father are living in the Bronx, where my legal address is. And 2 times the U.S. Army sends a letter to come to the draft physical. Draft is they take you from wherever you are into the Army. So I don't go. The 3rd time, the FBI comes to my mother's door in the Bronx with the hat, with the trench coat. I didn't bring the trench coat. I have it at home. They say, Mrs. Miller, if your son doesn't come to the next physical, we could lock him up. And my mother said, I can say what my mother said? Yeah, it's okay? She said, fuck you, drop dead, my son is not going into your army. Okay, so anyway, I came back for the physical. Don't mess with the FBI. Are you serious? Right? So, I go for the draft physical. But before that, I had training. There was this whole network of people, psychologists, doctors, teachers, and they taught me a very important lesson. The Army needs people who will conform to their program. So do everything possible against it. So the first thing, you come in and they put you in a telephone box with put the earphones on, and they have a little clicker where you, when you hear, you press the button. So I sit down, I don't even put it on, and I press the button. The guy says, no, wait till you hear it. I hear it. He says, okay, let's try again. He says, don't mess with me. We can sequester. Sequester, when they take you and put you in isolation, we can sequester you for 2 weeks. I go, take me. The next thing, they give you this little tiny cup to make a pishy. I mean, it's not as big as the Balaton, but it's a tiny little cup. And unfortunately, I pissed all over the floor. The next one is the eye chart. I couldn't see anything. And then finally, to the psychiatrist. And this old Dr. Rosenberg, Dr. Rosenberg is sitting in his chair in a small office, and I'm sitting there. And I had been in a car accident, and I made a big deal about my head and all this. And behind him is a frosted window. And looking out is the Statue of Liberty and, you know, Staten Island, beautiful view. But you could only see it through the edges. So I go behind him and I start to go like this. I say, Doc, do you think people could see through walls, see through the back of a chair? And he goes, yes, what do you mean? And he's writing. So anyway, they let me go for 1 year, and then the war ended. Thank goodness for me. So then they give you intelligence tests, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. And I realized that if you look this way and you just go like this, you can fail the intelligence test. So I failed 5 intelligence tests. And I felt really good because my hero at the time, Muhammad Ali, he only failed 3. So they send me upstairs to the top floor where there's nobody, into a big lecture hall. And I'm waiting there for like 20 minutes and looking out at the beautiful view. And this young guy comes in, Cohen. He looked like my twin brother. My mother would have flipped out. And he goes like this, Jay, I know what you're trying to do. I tried to do it too. And I lost it. I lifted him up off the ground, slammed him against the wall. I never did this to anybody before or after. Put my forearm in his, and I said, don't ever say you're like me. Look what you did to your life. And I let him down. Now, I don't know if I was that strong or he could have killed me because he was a soldier. But anyway, there's 2 rules about the Army. 1, don't ever go into the Army. And 2, don't ever let anyone you love go into the Army. No, I won't ask if anyone was in the Army. One last story. As I said, this is my 49th year of teaching, and I've taught in kindergarten to 6th grade is actually my training. Most of my career, it's been in university, my experience, and now for many years with professionals. And I would like to tell you quickly about my first week teaching in the Bronx. Right? So I'm driving up, it's my first day teaching, I'm driving up the hill, because the Bronx, being on the mainland, is very hilly, whereas the other boroughs tend to be pretty flat, right? And I'm driving up the hill, and I see people with beach chairs, lawn chairs, folding chairs in the street, and people coming. And I notice they're looking in a certain direction, and there's smoke coming out of the top floors of a building. And what is this? And then fire comes out of the windows, and everybody's cheering. So the deal is that, 1, people burn their own apartment so that they get money from the city to buy new furniture. Or the building is so old that the owner of the building pays somebody to burn it because it's not worth it. They can't fix it. They can't refurbish it. So this is a big cycle in the Bronx. Okay, so I leave and I park in front of the school, and I get my class. My class was 12 students who were 16 years old in the sixth grade. What age are you in the 6th grade? Right, so these people were 16 years old. This is before they diagnosed hyperactivity and dyslexia, dysgraphia, all of these things now that we can deal with. And without going through each, one kid couldn't read, but on Sunday at the church, he was the pianist. Another girl who carried weapons, she was the leader of a girls' gang. But my favorite guy was Jose Morales. He had a smirk all the time, and you just stayed away from him. So anyway, I survived my first half a day, and I go with my brown paper bag. They didn't invent plastic at that time. So we had a brown paper bag with my little juice, an apple, and of course, my tuna fish sandwich. And I go to the teacher's room and I sit down, and I'm listening to the other teachers. I'm trying to be quiet because I'm not quiet. And one teacher goes, "Janet, I only have 13 more years to retire." It's my first half a day. "Oh, Marcia, I only have 8 years to retire." I said, "Excuse me, do you enjoy teaching?" "No way." So I packed up my tuna fish sandwich and went out, and I ate in my own room, or I ate with the kids, or I ate outside. And I promised myself that every day that I go teach, I'm going to enjoy it, no matter who my students are. So that's my story. So again, I'll be here April 22nd, the day after my birthday. I would like to use this moment for reclam. Please, since the COVID hit, it's been really difficult, as you know, for a lot of businesses, and for theater. So I'd like to, you to take a look at the March program. And I believe in April 17th, my friend Moya, not Maya, Moya, right? Got it? She will be telling stories in English. I believe it's on the 17th of April. But please check out rskeelance.hu and come visit us.
Hungarian.
Huh?
That is in Hungarian.
Yeah, mostly everything is in Hungarian.
We usually have a meeting with the audience, so it's an audience, közönség találkozó. I don't know how it is in English. The audience can ask questions, ask Jay to do more scenes, tell more stories, whatever. So I give a little bit more light. If you have any questions to Jay, anything in connection with his show, and yeah. And,
So thank you all. I appreciate very much. So any questions or any tomatoes?
Can you sing us a song? Can you sing us a song?
Can I sing you a song?
Yes, a song.
In Yiddish, I believe.
Oh,
Any song.
let me see. So Joe was a singer, right? And I grew up with his songs. Thank you very much. And she knew Joe. And because of copyright and YouTube, I didn't put the songs in the show, but now we can edit it out. Joe was a very egalitarian person. He loved all people, and growing up in the Bronx, I mean, in my baseball team, there was Billy Walsh, his grandparents were from Ireland. Gerd Wiesner, they were from Germany. Carlos Gomez, they were from Puerto Rico. And Stevie Rothman was from probably Russia, Poland, Hungary area. So we grew up with a lot of kids. But still, when you guys were dealing with, in the 1950s and 60s, with the Soviet power, we were watching every night black people hung from trees in Alabama, in Mississippi, and so on. And one of my heroes was Jackie Robinson. He was the first black man to be in American sport, Major League sport. And this is a very significant, this is Brooklyn, this isn't the Bronx. So let me sing a song in relation to that. I believe it comes from the play Porgy and Bess. I've been fighting the flu, so no hugs. One sec. You asked. Why? It's from the Balaton. He must know something, he don't say nothing, he just keeps rolling, he keeps on rolling along. Ooh, you and me, we sweat and strain, all broke up and racked with pain. Tote that barge and lift that bale. You get a little drunk and you land in jail. Paul Robeson. If you go to YouTube, Paul Robeson, he was like Charlie Chaplin, one of my other great heroes, was sent away to Europe because he was un-American for some reason. I've been in Europe for 25 years, maybe same with me, right? Let me see, another song. Did I write the songs down here? You make me nervous. Where's my papers? I'm blank. Do you remember what I was saying the other day? Maybe if I blow my nose. When I used to teach in the university, someone would sneeze and I would give them a tissue. Then eventually they would sneeze and go like this to me. Joe was a union organizer. He used to leave in the evenings after dinner with these 3 big guys, and he used to come home with black eyes and bleeding of his face, and we would sing union songs. There once was a union maid who never was afraid of union ginks and company finks, and this is what you said. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union, I'm sticking to the union till the day I die. Okay, that was not so good. What? This is hard. You'll forgive me. I'm going to go off key, and my throat is going to. Who asked me to do that?
Me. I asked you.
Okay.
Because I love your singing.
Okay.
I think you sing very well.
Okay. Why I like to travel so much. Why I've lived in Canada for 5 years. Why I've lived in Israel 3 different times. I can only handle it for like 2 years max. See the pyramids along the Nile, watch the sunrise on a tropic isle, but remember, darling, all the while, you belong to me. I traveled on without you. And I don't know the rest of the words. But to end my show, to let you guys go home, I would like.
You need a match to light the candles?
No, because you told me I shouldn't, because the fire people. No. It's okay. No. 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was working here in this room, and I was standing over there by that podium, and I was setting up my show, and I met Anna. She told me I can't say anything about her family or anything about, so I won't, but we met right over there, and at that time, I was going to rendezvous.hu or okcupido.com, and I'm pretty good at that stuff, right? And at one point I said, enough of this. And I was packing my toys to come here to do my show, and it hit me, just a little feeling, and said, wow, You're like the bird in the ear. I said, Jay, maybe you're going to actually meet somebody in real life doing what you do. And then, okay, and I finished packing, I came here. And then she came in, and I had decided the week before to set some criteria. And one was, I want a grandma. Okay? So she comes in, looking around, and we were much younger then, and we were 6 years younger. It means a lot at our age, you know. And I see her, and I say, I think she might be a grandma. And, you know, I'm smooth. You know, I just, hey, baby, what's your number? Can I get, you know, you want to go out to eat? No. So I know she's, oh, I'm a friend of Cutty's. And she couldn't even make a sentence in English, right? And my Hungarian is, you know, forget about it, right? And she don't speak Spanish, and my Spanish is okay. So she says that she's Cutty, the director's friend. Okay, so I know how to work it. So I write to Cutty. I said, Cutty, can I get, you know, Anna's email? So she calls Anna, if it's okay, and Anna says it's okay, but she doesn't know what does he want from me, what does he want from me? And I get the email, and I try it, comes back. Try it again. 3 times, it doesn't work. So finally, after emailing Cutty, she emails Anna, she emails me, and I email her, and she emails, oh, Anna with 3 N's. She's got to be different. So finally, we met. Why is he asking me? So our first date was in the Chiga restaurant in Rákóczi-tér. And we're sitting at the table, and I had just had my first cataract surgery, and I had a patch over my eye. And we sit down together, and she tells me, she says, oh, with a big smile, of course. She says, oh, why couldn't you wait till your eye was better? Now I'm only half as beautiful. So let me end my show. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me, someone I've needed so long. For once I can go where life leads me, and I know I'll be strong. For once I can touch what my heart used to dream of long before I knew. Someone warm like you makes my dreams come true. Okay, go home. Thank you, guys. Great to meet you.